Welcome back everyone. In the first part of s- class 1, we already covered what is Django REST Framework, installed and set up Django plus Django REST Framework. Then we create a model named student as we see here. Then we create a model student. Then then we learn how to apply make migration and migration command after creating the models. So now today we are going to see how to create first API using function based view in REST framework, as well as we are going to learn what is serializers and how to create a serializers. Let me first explain you why are serializers so important. In Django REST framework, serializer help us to convert Python object like model instances into JSON, as well as convert incoming JSON into Python data to validate and save, as well as perform validation like checking for required fields. Also show or hide certain fields in the API response. So that's why in Django REST framework we have a concept of serializer. Serializer is nothing but this will help us to convert Python objects like model instances into JSON, as well as convert incoming JSON into Python data to validate and save. So these are the features why we use serializer in Django REST framework. Now it's time to create a serializers for our app. Our app name is API, our project name is API project. Let me create a serializer new file here, serializers.py. So I create a file with name serializer.py. Here from rest underscore framework, import serializers, and then from dot models I am going to import student model. After that class I am going to create a student serializers from serializer.model serializer, and then class meta. After that model will be student, and the fields I want ID, then name, and then roll number, as well as the last one is GPA. So we already define all these fields name, roll number, GPA in our models as you see in the students model. So inside is serializer we define in field list we want all these fields GPA, roll number, name and ID from this model. Let me explain what I did in this code line by line. Basically in this line from rest underscore framework I import the serializer. This line basically imports Django REST framework serializer module. From Django REST framework module we are importing the module serializers from Django REST framework. After that from dot models import students. Basically from dot models, dot means in this directory, dot API means in this API, this is our app. Inside this API app folder we have the models. So we are importing the models from this directory. That's why we define here dot models from this folder models import students. We import our student model from the same app. Dot means current app. Dot means here the current app. We need it because we will base our serializer on this model. So this serializer is basically depend on the model's student. So after that, class student serializer serializers dot model serializers, we create a class student serializer that inherit from model serializer. That inherits student serializer will be inherited from model serializer. Model serializer is a shortcut that auto creates a serializer based on a model. So model serializer will help us to auto create a serializer based on a model. So then we have a class meta here. The meta class is used to configure the serializer. After that, we link the serializer model equal to student here on this line. We basically link the serializer to the student model. The student model is defined in models.py as you see. After that, this list, and then I store this list into fields. We specify the fields we want to include in the API output. That's why we specify the fields ID, name, roll number, and GPA. We basically specify the fields we want to include in the API output. That's why we include we specify these fields. So ID is added automatically by Django. As you see in models, we have no field for ID, but here we are specifying the ID. ID is added automatically by Django, and we included it in a response. Now, after all of this, after creating our serializer for our models student, we create a serializer student serializer for our model student. After that, it's time to create some view. So here I am going to import from rest underscore framework dot decorators import API view. This line allow us to use the API view, this API view decorator to define API view using simple function. It turns a function into an API endpoint. Let me apply some code. So after that we need from rest underscore framework dot response import response. Response is used to return JSON data back to the user. Whenever the API endpoint hits this response, we are importing from rest underscore framework dot response here the response import response. So basically response is used to return JSON data back to the user. That's why I import this one. After that, from dot models import student. We import the student model so we can get student records from the database. That's why I import the student. After that, from student from dot serializers import student serializer. We import the serializer we just created so we can use it to convert model data into JSON. I hope all the important required lines are clear why we are importing each line. So after that, decorator API view, and I want the get function to apply get function here. Get method of HTTP. This decorator basically this line basically this decorator tells DRF the Django REST framework, this function, after that let's say we have a function, let's say def get underscore students and request. So basically this line, as you know, at the rate API view is basically decorator function. So this decorator tells Django REST framework this function will accept only the get request. As you see here, I define here the get method of HTTP. So this get underscore students function will only accept the get request. After that, why this? So here basically def get underscore students, I define a function. This is basically in Django the API view function, and the name is get underscore students. So let me create some business logic inside this function, then we will explain each line. After that, students equal to student from student model student dot objects dot all. After that, serializer equal to student serializer, and then we pass the students and then many equal to true. After that, return response serializer dot data. So we define the API view function name get underscore students. It receives the incoming request object. After that, the student, this line, we fetch all students record from the database using Django ORM student.objects.all. We are basically fetching all the student record from the database using Django ORM. After that, on this line, what I did, and then we store into the variable students, fetching all the record from the database, then we store in the students variable. After that, on this line, basically we use the serializer, student serializer, to convert the students query set into JSON. Basically we apply here serializer, and this serializer is basically responsible to convert the student query set into JSON. This is basically the query set. When we fetch all data, then we want this query set to the JSON. That's why we apply the student serializer to convert the complex data into Python into JSON object notation. So we use the serializer to convert the student query set into JSON, and here as you see many equal to true. This means we are serializing a list, not a single object. That's why I pass many equal to true. We have so many students, then we will apply this. So we are fetching all the students data from the database. That's why we apply many equal to students. We are serializing a list, not a single object. I hope this will make sense for you. After that, return response serializer.data. This return the JSON response to the user, and serializer.data contains the actual JSON formatted data. I hope this will make sense for you. All the code. If any doubt till now, please comment it. I am here to clear your doubts. I am here to teach you Django REST framework in simple way. Don't forget to subscribe and like, share with your friends. Now it's time to create urls.py in our app. urls.py. So here from Django.urls import path. After that, from dot views import the get underscore students. After that, URL underscore patrons, the list, and inside list path, then students. After that, get underscore students. So in this file, what we did here, from Django.urls import path, we import path to define URL routes. That's why we import the path. After that, from .view, we use import get underscore students. We are basically importing our API view so we can assign it to a URL. Basically, we are importing an API view function from views to assign into. After that, we define a dictionary with name URL underscore patrons. This basically starts a list of URL patrons routes for the app. Here, as you see here, the path, we define one route here in this list for our app. As you see, we create a route when someone visits. Let me write here API, then students. When someone visits this, it will call the get underscore students view. So as you see here, we just define students. Where the API? Let me explain. Where this part? As you know, we create an urls.py in our app. Our app name is API and our project name is API project. And inside our API project, we have own urls.py. Here, from django.contrib import admin, then from django.urls import path. On this line import path, I am going to import include from Django URLs. So here question arises, why we are importing include here. Let me show you the why we import this. So inside URL patrons, before applying this, let me correct the mistake urls.py. So here there is no underscore URL patrons. This is auto get from the VS Code. So the correct one is URL patrons. So after that, inside our project here we import include. So as you see in URL patrons, we have already path admins.site.urls. So basically this is the default admin route for our Django project to see the database, to see the admin panel, to see the admin interface, to apply some database changes, to put some data in our table like for the students. So we have to visit the admin, and we see this in our last session. So I hope this will make sense. This is the default admin route. After that, here inside this path, and then I'm going to import API include and then API dot urls. So here when someone visits on this, the API part is here. We define the API part here. API then students. When someone requests on this API then students, then this get underscore students view will function call. So now it's time to run our project, our first project, to test our APIs. What is happening here? Clear my terminal. Python manage.py cd API project py manage.py run server. The shortcut, if you not want to use the full Python, that time you will use py manage.py run server as well. These both will work. So this is the shortcut basically for the word Python. So py manage.py run server, and I want to run my server on 1890 port. Let me run this. When I run my project, I get this error: no module name REST underscore framework, and we apply REST underscore framework in this settings.py of our project. From this line, we are getting the error REST underscore framework. So we have to install REST framework when we want to work with Django REST framework. So we have to terminate my app. Here pip install Django REST framework. Click this. We have to install this. We have to wait for this to install this. Then we will run our app again. As you see, we are successfully installed Django REST framework. The version is 3.16.0. Clear my terminal. So I'm going to run again my project by manage.py run server 1890. This command will help us to run our server on the port 1890. I am getting some errors. API underscore view get function object is not subscribable. Let me check my code, what I did wrong here. On this, I have to close this. So I hope this will solve the problem. Now the problem is solved. Let me click on this follow link, or click, you will copy this as well as you will follow the link. Click on this, this will redirect, this will open the link for you. When I click on follow link, I am getting this admin API, the empty path do not match any of these. So we have API, then students. Now I am getting something else. As you see here, I am getting HTTP 200 OK, means our API view function is working perfect, and we are getting 200 OK, and we are getting the empty list here, and the method is get. When we run this, so this we are using the get method. As you see here, get method, and the endpoint is APIs, then students. So till now we have nothing in our database. In our student table we have to fill some data. Let me enter some data. To open the admin interface of Django, you have to visit 1890, then /admin, and then you enter this. This part will be open. Let me write my credentials here for the admin interface login. Not now. Not now. Why I am getting this? Please enter the correct username and password for a staff account. So till now we not create a super user for our Django project. We have to create a super user for our project to see all the things in admin interface, all the tables, and we want to enter some data in our tables. So let me create first super user. So here the command python manage.py create super user. Run this command. Username will be admin, gmail.com admin. Yes, just for testing. The password is similar like a username. Our super user is created for our project. Uh, then we have to run our project again. Here python manage.py runs server on the port 8090, and if you want to run your project on by default port, so this is the command pymanage.py or python manage.py run server. When you run this, and this will by default run on 8000, so I want on 8090. In this way you will run on different port, not on default port. And now if I enter my credentials on OK, oh, I'm getting the admin interface by my project. And here you see I am not getting my students table here. So for that we have to fix something. In my VS Code, in app folder, app is API. Inside this I am going in the admin.py. So here admin.site.register what? Let me import first. From .models import student, and then I am going to pass student here. Student. Let me save this. Everything is okay. If I refresh this, I'm getting my table students here. So first of all I am going to insert some data. Let's say roll number is 1, roll number is 1 and 3.8, and save this. Let me enter one more record, add student, and here the name is Kashif, roll number 2 and GPA is 3.7. Save this. And now if I visit this again, and if I refresh this, I am getting the 2 students data on API students. Why I am getting the 2 students data? If I open this views.py, and here students.object.r fetch all the students. Due to this query I am getting all the students from my database. Then I am passing these students to the StudentSerializer to convert this complex query to the JSON for the output. At the end I am getting the output data here: ID, name, roll number and GPA. As you see I am getting ID as well here. And if I modify my serializer.py, just want roll number, name and roll number, not the ID. Save this, and if I refresh this, you will see I am getting just name, roll number and GPA. So this is the beauty of working with Django REST Framework, how the Django Serializer is working, how the Django function based view, API based view will work. If any doubt till now, please comment it. I am here to clear your doubts. Thanks for watching.